This is Legacy Battle. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, whatever you're listening on. I am Michael Adams. Also hit that notification button. So yeah, I'm Michael Adams, creator of Legacy Battle. My panelists tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, Penn State Collegiate Hockey All-Star, Kevin Adams, and Rollo Coughlin from Steelers Nation South will be around here in a few minutes. Tonight's debate is going to be the greatest brothers of the NHL over the last 30 years. So basically the 1990s on. Our guest tonight, he is an NHLer along with his brothers Kelly and Kip Miller, and of course even his cousin Ryan Miller was in the NHL. But our guest Kevin Miller is a 13-year NHL center. He played with several teams, including the Blues, Rangers, Red Wings, Caps, and Penguins. He's got 150 career goals, 61 playoff games, 4 hat tricks in his career. He has represented Team USA on numerous occasions, 3 times in the World Championships, also in the Canada Cup, and in 1988, he was a U.S. Olympian for Team USA. So we are honored to have here Kevin Miller. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Awesome. As always, we're going to have our Q&A after. And if anyone's watching this saying, man, that shirt is way too small on Michael Adams there, that's because this shirt is from like ninth grade. So, but I wanted to rep the Ducks for Kevin here tonight. So, all right, as we said, it's the greatest brothers. So let's jump in and we'll start with Kevin.
Yeah, so I got the Niedermeyers. These guys were pretty much inseparable when they were younger, played hockey a lot together. They were actually taught how to skate by their mother, and I guess their mother had taught power skating in exchange for ice time at their local rink. She had actually enrolled them in figure skating to help hone their skating skills. But Scott, he was a defenseman, well known, third overall pick in the '91 draft by the Devils. Played majority of his career there before moving on to Anaheim in 2005. He played 18 seasons, over 1,000 games, offensive defenseman, 4-time Stanley Cup champion, 5-time All-Star. He won the James Norris Memorial Trophy in 03-04 as the top defenseman in the NHL, Conn Smythe in 2007 as the most valuable player of the playoffs. In 2017, he was named to the 100 greatest NHL players in history. He repped Canada on the world stage numerous times. He's a member of the Triple Gold Club, which is where they win the Stanley Cup, the World Championship, and the Olympic gold medal. And he actually won 2 gold medals at the Olympics. He also played for the Memorial Cup champions and championship teams at the '91 World Juniors and the 2004 World Cup of Hockey, which makes him and Corey Perry the only players in history to have ever won each of the 6 major North American and international competitions that are available to all players. He was inducted into the IIHF all-time Canada team in 2020. He's one of the greatest defensemen in NHL history. He's inducted into the Canada Sports Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, the IIHF Hall of Fame, the Devils, the Ducks, and his I believe it was his junior team, the Kamloops Blazers. They all retired his jersey number. And then his brother Rob was drafted 5th overall by Florida in the '93 draft, began his career immediately following the draft without even going into the minors. During the '95-'96 season, he set career high in goals, assists, points in the regular season, helping the Panthers make that playoff run. Unfortunately, they fell short. He would later end up on the Ducks, made another Stanley Cup run against his brother, Scott, when they played the Devils. And unfortunately lost to his brother, but that made them the first brother pair to play against each other in the finals. Then Scott would later join him in Anaheim, and we all know that they actually ended up winning a cup together, which made them the first brothers since 1946 to win a cup together when the Reardons did it. Him and his brother Scott had a great career, great brother duo. I mean, Scott had a little bit more accolades than Rob. But I don't know. I think definitely one of the best combos for brothers. Bleacher Report did a report back in 2013, listed them the 8th best brother combo in NHL history, ahead of all the pairs that we're talking about tonight. So I definitely think they have the one up on all the guys that we're talking about tonight.
So Kevin, I come to you and I noticed how much Kevin said about Scott and how little he said about the brother Rob. And there's a reason for that. Scott Niedermayer is one of the all-time great defensemen. So what are your thoughts on these guys?
2 great players, solid guys on the ice too. Just, professionalism, every game, They just always were in the game and, doing their job the way it's supposed to be done. And, the stats are actually, great, amazing stats, especially for Scott. He played a long time, won a lot of hockey games, and was always, one of the top defensemen out on the ice. And his long career, shows that. And, for them to win a cup together, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, they were two great guys. I watched them more than I played against them, so they were fun to watch and loved watching them, and definitely top players.
Being as you and your brothers, you all made the NHL. What's the competitiveness level between you guys just growing up? I mean, it's got to be insane with the skill level that you all have.
Yeah, and that's part of, why we make it so far, actually. We had a lot of access to ice. My dad was, he played way back in the day, so he knew the amount of ice and the amount of stuff we had to work on. We also worked with figure skaters when we were young, but the bottom line was being on the ice together, competing against each other, whether it was just, the three of us on the ice, or we had a few buddies out there and it was five of us on the ice, but there was always competition. There was always learning going on. There was always pushing each other. Nobody really wanted to lose to the other side, and that's true if we were playing, charts in the backyard or cards or whatever it was. There's always that competition level. I'm sure it was the same with the Niedermeyers, and that just it puts you at a high level when you're, just practicing. And that's what's important, because that causes you to get a lot better and over time.
Let's move on to Brian.
All right. Well, I have the Stahl brothers, all born up in Thunder Bay, Ontario, all stand at 6'4" tall. So let's start with the youngest and my personal favorite, Jordan Stahl. Jordan was taken second overall in 2006 by the Penguins. And he's turned out to be one of the best penalty killing centers the game has seen in recent years. He got off to a fast start in his career by both making the all-rookie team and setting the NHL record for the youngest player to score a hat trick at just 153 days past his 18th birthday. He also became the youngest player to score on a penalty shot, the youngest to score 2 shorthanded goals in a single game. And he set the NHL rookie record for shorthanded goals in a season, which also led the league that year. Jordan has some hardware too. Some hardware too. He is the third winner of the is a 3-time winner of the Chase On Award, and in 2009 he hoisted the cup. He has spent 17 years in the NHL to date, with 6 with Pittsburgh, 11 with Carolina, and he's carved out a nice career of great special teams and defensive hockey. The next oldest, and just about a year older than Jordan, we have Mark Stahl. Mark was drafted 12th overall in 2005 by the Rangers, and he's had 13 seasons with them, 2 with the Wings and 1 with Florida. He's a very steady defenseman, usually a second-line guy. He could check well. He was disciplined. Not a ton of offense out of him, but he's still been able to compile a plus 46 plus minus during his career. He suffered a couple of tough injuries, including a significant concussion and an orbital injury after taking a puck to the eye, but he's battled back from both. And now for the eldest, a couple of years older than Mark, is Eric Stahl. And Eric is definitely is the best of the bunch. He went second overall to the Carolina Hurricanes in 2003, and he quickly became one of the best centers in the league over the next 15 years. He's made the All-Star team 6 times, won the Chase On Award once. He was the All-Star Game MVP, and he's done something that only 29 other players ever have, become a member of the Triple Gold Club, which, as Kevin said, means winning the World Championship gold medal, an Olympic gold medal, and the Stanley Cup. In 2008, Eric's likeness was put on the cover of EA Sports NHL video game. This guy could pass well, shoot well. He was a team captain, a great leader. He owned several Carolina Hurricane franchise records, including most postseason wins. He has the Minnesota Wild franchise record for most goals in a season. He has 14 hat tricks on his career, which is tied for 45th all time. and he has 72 game winning goals in his career, which is good for 56th all time. So the three Stahl brothers, they each brought something different to the game. Jordan was a great defensive center. Mark was a steady and tough defenseman, and Eric was a great leader and a scoring threat. And they have the impressive record that no one else has. They are the only trio of brothers that each have played 1,000 career NHL games.
That's a great stat. Kevin, what does it take to get to 1,000 games? Three of them, and of the three, we got one Hall of Famer for sure in Eric Stahl.
Well, the impressive thing is how big those guys are and how good they move on the ice. I mean, they all can skate. They all play offensive and defense. You know, they're really smart players, and you notice them on the ice all the time. They're getting the job done. They're doing what needs to get done to win games. Those are guys that coaches just love to have on their team. That's why they play so many games, because they're so valuable. They can, if it's a defensive game, they're great there. If it's an offensive game, you need a big goal, they chip in there. So just really solid both ways, two-way players, and really good players. I mean, the stats show how good they are, and yeah, they deserve it. They're fun to watch out there.
Well, let's move on to the Twins.
The Sedin twins, both identical twins, drafted in the 1999 draft, which was pulled off improbably by Brian Burke. Wound up getting both of them at the second and third picks. They would wind up playing 17 seasons together for the Vancouver Canucks, which essentially make them probably the two greatest players in Canucks history. They combined for 36 games played, 2,111 points, 523 goals, and 1,478 assists. Heinrich was more of the playmaker, as he had way more goals than Daniel, but Daniel was more of the assist guy, the playmaker. I mean, the goal scorer. In their last couple years together, they both played in their last 4 seasons, where they were 30, age 34, and age 37. They both played four seasons where they played at least 81 goals or 81 games. So even as their careers winded down, they still were playing at a high level. Heinrich had a high season in 2009, 2010 of 112 points. And Daniel in 2010, 2011 had a high season of 104 points. They were both inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2022, and that what makes them, because their longevity and the fact that they played together for so long, makes them the best.
So 1,000 points each, both Hall of Famers. Plus, they got that twin thing going on when they're on the ice, so they might know where to be. What are your thoughts on these guys, Kevin? I didn't think they were first ballot, but they did get in, I believe, in their first year of eligibility. I thought they were kind of like maybe borderline, but your thoughts on them?
Well, I think if they were on a different team, you probably would have got even more stats and more prestigious, playing time and more championships. And, they pretty much were the franchise in Vancouver. They brought, just showing up, they brought energy to Vancouver. They were able to, sign some other players. They were able to compete at a very high level, have shots at winning games and championships, and just stayed there and did it for a long time. And if they were somewhere else, I don't think the Vancouver franchise would have been much. And and then again, if you put them in a Red Wing or Pittsburgh or somewhere, those guys were so good, and with the other players that were also on those teams, they probably would have won a bunch of championships, and the stats would have been even bigger. So they were amazing, paired. They saw each other on the ice. They knew where each other were on the ice, and they really did just pretty much make that franchise, if you ask me.
So before we move into our final team tonight, our honorable mentions, these are guys that just missed our list tonight. The Koivus, Saku and Miko, they were very good players. And the Millers, of course, Kelly, Kip, and Kevin. So our final set of brothers tonight is the Hatchers. And being a defenseman, I'm happy to have gotten them. So we got Darian and Kevin Hatcher, 6 combined All-Star games between the two of them. In 2010, both were elected to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. Darian is a Stanley Cup winner in '99 with the Dallas Stars. Both have repped Team USA at the World Championships, the Olympic Games. Darian twice at the Olympics, and Kevin has 2 Canada Cups. So the thing about these two, though, they're brothers. They're both very big, but they played different styles. So I was impressed by that. Darian, he was a bruiser, a punishing checker, over 1,300 penalty minutes in his career. And he played so well defensively that the Dallas Stars actually named him captain over Mike Modano. And he became the first U.S.-born captain to win the Stanley Cup. So that's a nice accolade for him. And he stood at 6'5", 245 pounds. That's a big man up there. And when you add skates, I mean, we're talking another few inches. So, and his brother Kevin, 6'4", 232 pounds. Now, Kevin, the guy could move for that size. He's the older brother by 6 years, but despite his size, he's a great skater and scorer. He scored 34 goals in '93 and put up 40 points 10 times in his career. And he was on pace for well over that in the strike season there. And he had an injury season too, where he was on pace for it. So he's got 2 70-point seasons under his belt. And he was also third in the playoffs with 59 points, or a threat in the playoffs with 59 points in 118 games. He was one of the best offensive defensemen in the league during the 90s, and his 5 All-Star games prove that. And he helped the Penguins there for quite a while, and the Capitals before that. He was a very, very solid scoring defenseman. So your thoughts on the Hatchers? Nice to bring some defensemen into this list here tonight.
Well, I mean, the first thing is size. Even they grew up in Michigan, so I got to see them at young age, and the size was just incredible. They 6'5" and strong, and you nailed it. Darian was the big hitter, very, like to show his presence on the ice and turn the game around by making sure nobody was near the net or wanted to come in the zone. I had a nice comment from him myself. He was just, usually you took the puck to the other side of the ice if he was on the ice. And then Kevin was one of the first, as a big guy, to really be able to move and show some offense. I mean, you just didn't expect that from big guys like that. And, today's world, the 6'5" guys can really move and create a lot of offense. But back in the day, you just didn't expect it. And it was one of the first, guys to really bring that to the defensive core for big guys. And he was solid there. Both, like I said, you just, as soon as you walk out and warm up, you look at them and go, holy, how big are these guys? So, I mean, they were a presence.
I wish we would see more guys like Darian in the Hall of Fame, guys that maybe they didn't make a difference on the score sheet, but they made a difference on the back end. You got Darian, maybe like an Ulf Samuelsson or, even a Kasparaitis, guys that could change the game, not through scoring, but through the hits and things like that. But I don't think we'll ever see that. So, well, let's move into our vote here, guys. Cannot vote for your own. Adams, who you taking?
I'm gonna have to go with the Sedin twins. I love their final game in Vancouver. I think they had the assist and the goal on that final goal to win the game. It was like the Derek Jeter exit from the Yankees. I'll never forget. And I love the Sedin twins. They were great players.
It's amazing how great players that just happens for him. You said Jeter, the Sedins, Mike Modano did the same thing. Mario Lemieux. It's incredible. Brian.
I mean, I hate to agree with Kevin on anything, but I got to go with the Sedins. I mean, talk about like just saying like they were on the same page is just like a super understatement. I mean, these guys were, in each other's thoughts, and it was just unbelievable what they were able to do together.
Rollo?
So I can't vote for my own. I'm gonna have to go with the Niedermeyers.
And yeah, for me, I also hate to agree with Kevin, but I mean, I'm impressed with the Stalls because there's 3 of them, but only one of them is going to the Hall of Fame, and it's the same with the Niedermeyers. Only one's going to the Hall of Fame, and the Hatchers, they don't have any. So I'm taking the Sedins. Kevin, who are you picking?
I'm going to pick the Stalls. Just they're not done yet. They're still adding to very, very impressive stats already. And they're still going. So it's just I love how they just create, and they're at both ends of the ice and keep helping teams win, and their longevity. But I mean, all these that we've talked about are very impressive. As soon as you start throwing out all those stats, it's like, wow, that's very impressive. And so I'm gonna stick with the Stalls though. They're still going. So
all right, so that's 1 for the Niedermeyers, 1 for the Stalls, and 3 for the Sedins. So a win for the Twins tonight. Let's move into our Q&A. Rollo, you got the win, so you're going to get first question, and then we'll go Brian, Kevin, me.
Kevin, you scored your first goal in your first ever NHL hockey game. Do you remember that moment? And could you tell us how you felt when the moment happened?
Yeah, so this is actually a pretty interesting story. You may like it. So I was actually home on break in the minors, and it was right around Christmas time. Didn't have my gear with me. We were given like 5 days to go home. I didn't think it was enough to take the gear home because when we got back, we had some practices before the game. Got the call early in the morning. Had to get to Washington. They had to send my gear and sticks from Denver. Showed up, my gear was there, had no sticks there. I was the first one there because the flight went right to the locker room. It was like 3:30 or something like that. So I was just talking to the trainers, and they said, well, your sticks didn't show up. And I was like, well, okay, now what? And they said, just go over and pick a stick out. And I said, so, what's going on? There's like, well, you might play, you might not play. It all depends if Guy Lafleur plays or not. I'm like, okay, that's good to know. He's an amazing person that I've always wanted to meet, and here I am, may play for him. So I went over, looked at the stick rack. The only stick I liked was Guy's stick. So now I've got to wait to see if he's going to play, and I've got to ask if I can use his stick. So I was pretty nervous. Finally, he showed up to the rink. I met him. Really didn't want to ask him about his stick, so I just was hoping actually I might not play. The word came in, I'm in, so now I got to go over and say, hey, sorry you can't play. Can I use your stick? So he said, yeah. He's like, go ahead, take as many as you want. So I cut down a couple of Guy Lafleur sticks. Got on the ice, was pretty nervous. Had Kelly on the other side. So warm-up went good. I didn't hurt anybody, didn't hurt myself. First period, didn't get a shift. Second period, didn't get a shift. Third period, I think it was about halfway through the third, we're down. I couldn't feel my feet. I'd been sitting there the whole day after traveling, and I get the call to go out. I was like, oh boy. So got on the ice and just played as hard as I could, went through the crease. Somebody shot it from the point. It hit me and it went in. That was my goal. One shift, one shot. I didn't really shoot it. It was a reflection, and it was a goal. And it wasn't with my stick. It was with one of the best players in hockey history stick.
Wow.
So Kevin, you were you were able to spend some time with 3 of the original 6 NHL franchises during your career, the Rangers, Blackhawks, and Red Wings. I mean, they all got great fan bases. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Who has the most passionate fan base of those 3?
Well, that's a tough one. All 3 fan bases are amazing. The Rangers and that Madison Square Garden, their fans are all in on hockey. And they come to every game and they're loud, and a lot of times there's more fights in the stands than on the ice. But they were great. Outside the arena, they were great. Tons of support. The Red Wings were kind of just getting into their fans when I got there. They had a long stretch of the Dead Wings, but they were putting together the pieces and getting ready for a long run at some Stanley Cups. I wish I could have stuck around for those 4 or 5. But their fan base really came and supported them, and has grown into amazing. They still support them even though they're not in the playoffs the last few years. And then the Blackhawks is just it's an amazing building, especially the old building. It was so loud. I mean, just during the national anthem, it just gets so loud and so crazy. And they're a fantastic fan. So they're all great. I wouldn't put one over the other. It's fun to play in front of them.
So I want to take you to 87, 88. You repped Team USA, and you went to the Olympics. So what did it mean to you to wear the USA jersey at the Olympics? And I saw you averaged over a point a game in 48 games for USA that year. So how did that feel repping USA, and how did it feel during that season, that time period?
Yeah, so the dreams were me growing up was to play hockey at Michigan State, because I grew up right here and used to go to all the games when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. My second dream was to play for USA in the Olympics, and my third goal was to make it to the NHL. So I didn't know if I was going to be good enough to make the Olympics, but I developed quite a bit in my years in college. And when I got there, I ended up playing with some players that I really connected with. Craig Janney usually centered me, and he has an amazing way of finding the open around the net. And seems like we scored a lot of goals together, and was fortunate to make the team. Almost didn't make it to the final games, though, to the Calgary. Ended up breaking ribs in a college game in Minnesota, and it was kind of hit or miss whether I'd be 100% to get back. But in the end, I might not have been, but I was able to put up enough points prior to that they took a chance on me, because you're only allowed to take, it's not like 28 guys are going. You're only allowed to take, I think 22 or so. So there's not a lot of guys sitting out. And so it was a dream come true for me. It's something I was looking forward to my whole life, and loved every minute of it.
That was a pretty stacked team too. You guys had Leach, Richter,
Yeah.
Kevin
Kevin
Stevens.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty impressive lineup there.
Yeah.
All right.
That was I mean, we had a lot of talent in that team, and there was a lot of amazing pieces. I just don't think we knew really how to play the game when we got to Calgary. We were very skilled, had all kinds of talent, just didn't really know how to put it all together.
So you and I discussed this briefly before the other guys got on. I like to always ask about that 95-96 Penguins playoff run. What were your thoughts if Ron Francis doesn't go down? You guys beat the Panthers. The goalie switch from Breguet to Barrasso, which I thought was a horrible decision. What do you think you guys could have done with a healthy Ron Francis and maybe not the goalie change?
I think with a healthy Ron Francis, we probably win the cup. He was so important to the team because of he was really the only guy that knew how to play with Mario, and they had that connection all year. Plus, he was, the guy that takes all the face-offs. He was also the first guy off for the penalty kill. He was so important, and to have him miss that series, it became an area where they were trying to figure out who to play with Mario. They were trying to figure out who's going to take all the face-offs, who was going to kill the penalties, and it just kind of, caused some hesitancy or uncertainty. I think he was going to get back in the lineup actually if we made it that game 7. If we would have got by a game 7, I think he was coming back for Colorado. So it would have been interesting to have him healthy. I think we do it. Goaltending wise, Van Beesbrook was just hot. I mean, he was stopping 45, 50 saves every night. If it was probably 30 shots and 30 shots, maybe Barrasso and Reggett, are more into the games, but most of those games I think were about 40-12. So it's hard to stop pucks when you're not seeing a lot on a regular basis. But Johnny was hot, and when you run into a hot goalie, sometimes it doesn't matter.
Right. One more each, same order, guys.
Kevin, referencing that 95-96 season, the Penguins had the last 3 100-point scores until the Oilers did it this past season. You guys were rolling. How did it feel at the end of the season when you guys didn't make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and you ultimately came up short, even though the season was great?
Yeah, so I was there just the second half. So I came at the trade deadline. I actually found out it was an interesting story because being in San Jose, I was trying to hit some. We weren't making the playoffs, so I was trying to hit some goals that I hadn't hit, like goal scoring. And I was playing with Craig Janney, and I was nearing 25, maybe a chance at 30, which would have been great. Ended up getting hurt. And it was kind of like, well, we're not making the playoffs. Should I rest or not? And I was getting hey, are you ready to play? Are you ready to play? And I was like, I can play if you guys need me to play. And as soon as I said that, about an hour later, they said, well, you're playing for Pittsburgh tonight, so get on a plane. So, but it was great. All of a sudden, the energy level comes back. You're like, holy crap, I got a chance of going a long way in the playoffs. Going over to, play with amazing players like Mario. So the excitement came back, and I had a pretty good run towards the end, and the playoffs were a lot of fun. And like I said, it's just a shame that a guy like Ronnie went down.
So, Kevin, obviously you had brothers in the NHL, Kelly and Kip, cousins, Ryan and Drew, and your daughter, Hannah. She became a gold medal winning figure skater. I believe you have 3 other daughters, if I'm not mistaken. Will we see any other people from the Millers, the Miller family competing at high level sports anytime in the near future?
Probably not near future. My girls are all done. I had 3 that figure skated. Hannah was the high level. She was an amazing figure skater. That was fun to follow her career. I had one play hockey. She ended up playing at Adrian and won a lot of games and championships there. Kip's got a boy that's 2013 that is fun to watch right now, but it's so far away, it's hard to say, whether or not he will continue his drive. But right now he loves going on the ice and loves training, and he's coming to all my power skating classes. So we'll see what happens there. After that it's going to be grandkids. So I'll look forward as soon as we have some come about to work them and train them and get them ready, though. That'll be fun.
Yeah, keep the Millers going. All right.
Yeah.
So I want to take you to your Detroit days. That was my favorite, I guess you could say, non-Pittsburgh team when I was a kid. My whole bedroom was done up in Detroit Red Wings. Fedorov was my favorite player, but both times that you were on the Red Wings, you had some pretty decent rosters there. What was it like playing with Yzerman, Shanahan, Fedorov, Brett Hall, Lindstrom, Hasek? I mean, the list goes on. What was it like playing for Detroit and playing with some of those players?
Yeah, so when I got there, actually, Yzerman, of course, was, top star player. Lidstrom had just gotten there. And it was kind of the start of building. Fedorov was young, but you knew he was going to be a star. Lidstrom, watching him, it was hard to really see how good he was. You had to play with him and just know that he was so good, and it was amazing talent. So you knew they were building the right way. The Ilitches wanted a championship in town. They were going out. They were getting the pieces. The guy I got traded for, Cicerelli, he was a big piece of it. They just kept putting the pieces together and worked. They had all sides. They had toughness. They had goal scoring. They had defense. So they were going to win championships. The second time I got there, I was just, back from Europe, and really just my goal. I was already working as a financial advisor, and I was just wasn't ready to retire yet, and I was hoping to get a few years under my belt as a financial advisor, so it'd be easier to make the transition. And just figured I'd be in Grand Rapids, and they just had so many injuries. I mean, they had a great team, but when 5, 6, 7 guys are out, it's just hard to go very far in the playoffs. And it's always nice to get up there for a little while and have some fun in the old days, of getting back to the NHL. But I knew I was going to be in Grand Rapids, and we had a good team in Grand Rapids. Actually played with some guys that came up. Cromwell was there. I was in Grand Rapids when he first came over, and it's another deal where you just knew right in practice, right the first game, you're like, well, this guy's going to the NHL and he's going to have a long career. There's guys like that you, as soon as you get on the ice with them, you go, oh, this is the talent. And so yeah, it was fun.
So we'll get you out of here with this. I want to take you back to 94-95, the San Jose Sharks. Now the 93-94 Sharks, they made the playoffs and beat the Detroit Red Wings in one of the biggest upsets in NHL playoff history. So what do you think happened 94-95? You guys only won 19 games. You had a nice roster. Jamie Baker was on there. We've had Jamie Baker on the show. So what do you think happened to that team? And what was it like to play for a defensive-minded coach like Kevin Constantine? Does that really like drain you as an offensive thought player?
That was a frustrating year, because I came from Keenan, who wasn't playing me, and I knew I could still score. I knew I could be a top line or number 2 line on that team. But at the start of that year, they brought in a bunch of their younger draft picks, and they were pretty much forcing them into the play. They really wanted these guys to play, and they weren't ready. Matter of fact, one of the kids they played for a long time came up to me early, and he's like, they told me they want me to be like you. And I was like, all right, well, and I don't know the kid. He was a European. I think he's a Finn. And so I was just like, all right, well, I don't know what that means, but good luck. And so, the first 15 to 17 games, I was 4th line or out of the lineup. And I felt I was pretty good. I felt good in practice. I was scoring goals in practice. I'd get in the game in the 4th line, and I'd somehow get points and kill penalties. And so it was just, and we were losing. And so it was, I think that's that. After that, it was kind of just turmoil the rest of the year. They got off to such a bad start. They ended up getting the lineup right. They had to get rid of Kevin because somebody had to be the fall guy on all the losses at the beginning of the year. The second half, I ended up still finishing with 20 some goals. So I was right that I could still play. But when you're in that big a hole, it's just, it's hard to fight back and get back into the playoff picture. And so we knew we were going to miss early. And then at that point, it just becomes, okay, where are we getting, who are we trading? And so it was a frustrating year. There was a lot of talent on the team. It just didn't get started the way it needed to that year.
Well, thank you, Kevin Miller, for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is fun.
A reminder, everybody, hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all next time. Have a great day.